This movie was like a roller coaster, right? I've never heard so many people scream this much ever since, like, Endgame. So that's pretty much a spoiler in itself, because if this didn't go the way people thought it was gonna go, a lot of people would be mad. So let's get into it. I'll admit, I was one of the detractors. I didn't think Tom Holland was a great Spider-Man. I think he can act well. He's definitely got the physicality, but he's just been given really shitty scripts all this time. 5 movies in, I still haven't seen him play Spider-Man. Unoriginal as it is, I'm one of the guys saying he's only playing Iron Boy Jr. And there's like 4 characters in the MCU right now you could probably give that role to. So why'd you gotta do it with Spider-Man? Give him a chance, he's never played Spider-Man yet. Until now. So we all know the story, right? From the trailers you kinda get the idea. Peter gets doxxed, and as usual, he fucks it up, and he goes to a porn-stashed, imbalanced superhero to fix all his problems. Now at first he says, oh, it's for my friends, but really it's just cause he doesn't want the heat. And then he changes the spell halfway because he doesn't want the bad parts about it. Even though his friends still could go to MIT if everyone forgets he's Spider-Man. Now in fairness, Strange could have done a better job explaining how it works, but he rightfully gets called out for not even trying to do something else besides going to a fucking wizard. And then people from different universes who know Peter is Spidey come back and fuck shit up. And he's gotta find a way to solve it. Strange could easily just send them back where they came from, even if it means they die. But Spidey actually wants to help him, which is noble, but really naive. And I guess right here is where I would say, yeah, he's finally not like Iron Man, because Iron Man would have killed him on the spot. He would have walked away and not even looked back at the explosion, but this guy, he actually wants to help, so I give him that. Let me just say that there is no doubt this movie is totally fan service. I'm pretty sure it was just made to have an excuse to bring back fan favorite villains, and even some heroes. The fights are really contrived, but it makes sense, so I appreciate that, they got the checklist of things they wanted, Green Goblin, Sandman, Electro, and they made them all make sense. I appreciate it. So why doesn't Doctor Strange appear in the final fight? Well, they explained that. Why did the other Spider-Man appear? Well, they explained that too. It is predictable. A lot of fan theories were true, and I loved it. It was predictable in the best way. And then there's some stuff I didn't see coming, like the iconic lines from Raimi's Spider-Man.
My back! I'm something of a scientist myself.
I didn't think they'd acknowledge it, but they did, and it was wonderful. And I don't know if they meant to do this, but I always like it when what happens in the movies parallels what happens in real life. You got that whole first 5 minute scene and Spider-Man is basically doxxed, and you see the public go crazy. People attack him unprovoked. That fat chick who was saying, oh, he hit me, Spider-Man hit me, even though she was the one that started it. This shit happens in real life. Like, the news is calling him things he isn't, horrible things. He's saying like he's he's where he shouldn't be, maybe perhaps crossing state lines, bringing in illegal weapons. Where have I seen that before, huh? We're playing with fire here on YouTube. Alright, I won't elaborate, but I would say they're similar because they both try to do the right thing, at least from what I can tell, but they fuck it up. Yeah, they're in way over their heads. That's all. Let's get back to the movie, huh? The final fight. So, I like that it wasn't the world at stake. It was really just the villains' lives at stake. He was trying to save them. He was trying to cure them so they wouldn't wreak havoc. That was really nice. When you see the 3 of them line up, and you see the 3 Spider-Men line up, yeah, they're trying to save them. Because that's what they do. They're heroes. They're better than you or I. Alright, I won't speak for you, but they're better than me. It's something I could aspire to. Thinking about it a bit more, when I say cure them. Maybe this whole movie is like a vaccine allegory. Maybe I'm thinking too much,
This is a propaganda movie. They're trying to push them vaccines. All you really should be doing is these Daily Bugle supplements.
Can we appreciate that even though Alex Jones is banned from everything, he still lives on as the MCU J. Jonah Jameson? That supplements line was just so direct, and I don't know how many people got it. In my audience, they didn't get it, but I'm sure some of you folks know. You know what I'm talking about. The people who wrote this know what I'm talking about. John Watts, you sneaky bastard. I know what you're doing. When I thought of the characters, the first one that came to mind was Matt Murdock. It was just such a treat to see him there. I'm glad they kept him in, and he didn't outstay his welcome at all. It was just a fun gag. Even people who didn't watch Daredevil, they probably just think he's a cool throwaway character. And it makes sense as to why he didn't show up in the final fight because, maybe he can hang out with Peter after this movie. He'll know who Spider-Man is if they happen to run into each other. Peter won. He finally gets a good script this time. Most people wanted a Spider-Verse movie, but this is really his movie, and that's a good thing, because he finally, after 5 fucking movies, gets a chance to shine. He's not kissing Iron Man's ass at all. One of my biggest gripes about him is that he's always dependent on others. But I guess now that's a good thing, because now he knows how to work in a team. That's his strong suit. From the first movie, he's been working in a team of some sorts. So he's really good at directing. He's able to do that. Even Tobey Spider-Man only worked with one other guy, and it was kind of impromptu. And in a world where you have arc reactors existing since 2008, and he was like a toddler at that point, it makes sense as to how he's so smart. I got nephews under 10 years old who know how to make apps, so that's incredible to me. But it's possible. May. Boy. Yeah, May, she fucking dies. The day before I saw this movie, I watched the Green Goblin death in Spider-Man 2002. And even if you didn't see it coming when you saw him holding up Spidey's head and saying like, "You're gonna get yours, Spider-Man," when he's looking at her, he's gonna do some sicko shit. And when she got hit by the glider, I thought, that's it, she's gone, she's dead. She got skewered like a kebab. But she hung on for as long as she could, and I thought she was gonna make it. But, eventually her body gave up on her. And she got to deliver that great, iconic line. I was kind of bummed out that Uncle Ben didn't exist in this movie, in this universe. Maybe he died long before Peter, maybe he's just not that close with him. But it is a bummer that the Osborns don't exist either. And in the other Spideyverses, the whole ass Avengers don't exist. So eventually I just came to accept that some things don't exist. And that's okay. Because in another time, they might. MJ is a lot better in this movie too. It's almost like she's a different character. She was so sweet. Maybe that's just her as a girlfriend, rather than her being a classmate. She just wants to be wary. She had a whole line about preparing to be disappointed so you're not hurt as much. That may have explained why she was so cynical and seemingly bitter at first. It made sense. And even when Peter fucked up so bad, she didn't give him too much shit. Now I remember one thing about MJ from the Raimi movies. Yeah, she gave Peter a lot of shit. They definitely didn't change her character any more than they have in the previous films. I just wish they'd let Zendaya dress herself, because that's what MJ was like in the comics. She's supposed to be hot. She's supposed to be supermodel. Zendaya dressed down still looks stunning. But yet in this movie it looks like she just got out of bed all the time. I don't get it. I don't get why you can't have pretty women in movies anymore. You had it in Wonder Woman 84, but there was rape in that, so not the best example. I don't know, maybe she'll look more like comic MJ in the next one. She does in real life, that's the crazy thing, In real life, she looks like MJ more than she does in the movie. But in the meantime, at least Spidey can have other love interests. There's Black Cat, there's Silver Sable, there's Silk. There's so many to choose from. Ned was a good guy. He's a good dude. I like that he had a lot more to do in this one. He had the magic rings from Doctor Strange. And it was funny seeing him know about the fate of other Spider-Man best friends. I'm glad he didn't die or turn into Hobgoblin. The colors on his jacket seemed really sus. I thought they were going there, but no. They left him alone. That was nice. Peter too. We're talking about Tobey here. I screamed when he showed up. I was like, yeah, boy! There's no shame. He looked tired and disheveled. And honestly, he looked like he was phoning it in. But I still loved seeing him. Maybe it's just the age that wore him down. That made me think, like, there's a lot this Spider-Man had to go through. I'm just so glad they didn't Last Jedi him. If he's gonna be cynical and a downer, I want to see how he got there. But, he still kept his charm. But now he just has that mature face, so you think, wow, this guy grew up. Even Doc Ock said, wow, you're all grown up now. It was beautiful. The fact that he got to grow old, that's a gift. That means he's had a long life and he's still with MJ. It wasn't all peachy. They still had their troubles, but they worked through them. I like that he acted like a big brother or father figure to the other two Peters. Maybe like a wise uncle. Peter 3! Andrew was a riot here. He was like mostly the butt of all jokes, like Fat Thor was. And I've seen a lot of people say he was basically like a metaphor for the middle child syndrome. He had some great lines. I always thought he was too cool to be Spidey, but now it seems like out of the three, he's the lame one. He's got some self-confidence issues, and he hasn't entirely forgiven himself for what happened with Gwen. It's implied he got some dark stuff too. The line about he stopped pulling punches. Like, did he kill some people? Shit, man. And he's got a lot of unresolved issues. And that kind of ties in with how his series ended, Unresolved. And I will say, he's the friendliest Spider-Man. How cool must it have been to see all Peters together? All these actors, it's not just that they get to play Spider-Man, they're actually fans of Spider-Man. And as characters in the movie, even they're fans of different Spider-Man from different universes. There's this great scene of them just collectively geeking out and asking legitimate questions you'd ask alternate universe versions of yourself. That was kind of what I guess was missing in Loki. You had a bit of that with Loki talking to Kid Loki, but they just seem too wildly removed. We haven't seen these guys as Loki in movies or series or whatever. So when you saw Tobey and you saw Andrew, I remembered them from previous movies. So I really did see them as Peter. And finally with this movie, I saw them all as Peter Parker. I saw them all as Spider-Man. God, it felt like a fever dream, I still can't believe it. I watch clips online on YouTube, but it just doesn't feel real. And we've seen so many good fakes out there. When the leaked images went up, I thought this is probably fake. It's so easy to fake it nowadays, but it was real. It's true, all of it. Now let's talk about the villains, huh? Oh my god, Willem Dafoe was so good. He's so fucking good, dude. When May first called Peter to help him out, he acted so scared, like a little puppy dog. I almost forgot how menacing he can be. I forgot that there was a duality to Green Goblin, because I was only watching the funny, intimidating scenes of him before the movie. And after this movie, I truly believe he's a good guy. He's just misled by the green chemicals in his head. I was kind of sad when he smashed the mask. Willem Dafoe can do such a great goblin face. He doesn't need it, but I just wish he looked a little bit more like the cartoon. I wish the first dose that May gave him that didn't work, I wish that would have turned his face green, just for fun. You don't even have to put makeup on him, just turn him green in post, or do what you do with Gamora. Maybe that would have been distracting, I don't know. Or maybe it would have turned out like Dane DeHaan's Goblin, which looked weird. Doc Cock! I was afraid they'd butcher his ending in Spider-Man 2, but apparently the characters were pulled out once they found out Pete was Spidey, so he still misses his machine, but I'm glad he got to be cured first, so he returns to being the good doctor he was before. And I love that when Peter attached his Bluetooth device and started pairing with his arms, Peter's interaction was gold there too. Props to Tom Holland. When I heard him snickering, I was like, that's Peter. That's the mischievous Spider-Man I know. Electro. Jamie killed it. Now he's got a bit more swagger. Now his hair and teeth are fixed. He's got a cool goatee. He's got a nice fade. And at the end, when he lost his power, I kind of felt bad for him. He feels worthless. Yeah, if I'm not wrong, to him, maybe all this took place in a day, so this must have been a very eventful birthday for him. Sandman! He started out as a friend, and then he flip-flopped. With reason, I won't go into that, but Spider-Man didn't lie as far as we know, but Sandman had reason to believe he might. And we do know he has something to live for. His kid. I loved how casual his convo was with Electro about how silly their origins were. Just gotta be careful where you fall, man. Gotta watch where you're going. Lizard. He was a wild card. I didn't know if he was good or bad. With all that CGI on his face, it's hard to tell. He doesn't have a serum, so I don't know what his goal was in the whole movie, but it just seemed like he just wanted to fuck shit up, He still wants to transform people into furries. I guess scalies, what do you call them? I don't know. But he was fun. And they didn't have Venom in the movie until the end. It makes sense why he wasn't there, at the end of Venom 2, he was transported to an island somewhere, so it's not like he was in New York. It would have been cool to see him interact, but, hey, maybe they can do that in the next one. I think he still has memories of Tobey Peter, because at the end of Venom 2, he was talking about, how he has a collective knowledge from different universes, so maybe he's gonna like jazz in the next movie, huh? The problem I've had with the John Watts Spider-Man movies is that it just didn't look exciting. With Raimi's one, you have a camera fucking swinging through New York, and then with the Mark Webb ones, you have POV shots, you have the camera just like circling, orbiting around Spider-Man like he's the sun and the camera's a planet. Maybe it's the nostalgia, but I think the camera work here was way better. Like that scene when he was fighting with Doc Ock on the bridge. It just seemed so much more cinematic. And you even had that scene with him and MJ. It just seemed like a lot more was happening than static shots. I don't know. I'm just, maybe I like the movie and that's why I'm biased to think the visuals are better here too. And of course, no visual beats 3 Spideys on screen together. And I mentioned it felt unreal. That tune is still stuck in my head. You know, doom, 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 doom. They played that variation of the MCU Peter's theme throughout. And it really helps to keep that memory in your head a long time after the movie's ending. You know, it's like a taste. It just has that resonating effect, like when that dude ate Ratatouille from Ratatouille. At first I thought that theme was too epic. It sounds like very mythological. I thought it would fit Thor better than it would Spider-Man. Especially this Spider-Man, because he was always just a kid following in somebody's footsteps. But at the end of this movie, I think it really fits, because if you watched it, you know he makes a huge sacrifice. He really steps up. He leads a team. He's really a hero after this. I truly believe that. And I loved hearing the Elfman and Raimi themes as well. It's so epic hearing them. You know, they played during their interactions, and sometimes just seeing Tobey and Doc Ock together, it was so epic. I didn't even realize they were playing the old theme too. And seeing them together and hearing that music, that creates the effect you want, because in Justice League, when they played the old 1989 Batman theme, when Batfleck showed up, it was nice, but it didn't really hit home. It didn't really make sense. When I hear the Man of Steel soundtrack in Zack Snyder's Justice League, that made sense, because that brought me back to 2013 when I saw Man of Steel. You know, if you're gonna show Batfleck and you take me back to 1989, I'm like, why? I mean, it's cool, but it's not the same dude. If they're gonna play it in the new Flash movie with Michael Keaton, that would be cool. You know, that's how important music is. I am so glad that I got to see this in the movies. Like I said, this was like a roller coaster. The whole theater experience. You know, people were screaming like they don't give a fuck.
It's so good, I gotta bust a cap in here.
It was just such a great experience. I'm so glad I got to watch it on opening night. There's never gonna be an experience like this again. There's always that fear that, oh, what if Ned opens a portal and it's just Tom Holland wearing the Andrew suit or the Tobey suit. But no, it was really them, and it was such a nice surprise because, Andrew, you fucker, you've been lying for months. I didn't know if he was gonna be in this, but he was. The people in the theater didn't know either, for sure. Yeah, there were leaks, but they could be fake. So when it was confirmed that he was in it, we were so excited. My final thoughts, yeah. Tom Holland actually gets to play Spider-Man in this one. Finally! People in the MCU, John Watts, you got me! Because I thought MCU wouldn't do an origin story. But they were playing the long game. This was the longest origin story ever, spanning 6 films. But the payoff is great. It gives me a lot of hope that a lot of bad stories we see can be fixed. And now, if I rewatch the previous MCU Spider-Man films, it makes it better. Like, I don't like who this guy is now, but I know eventually this is gonna lead up to him being Spider-Man. Not Spider-Boy, not Iron Boy Jr., Spider-Man. It's kind of the opposite of The Incredibles. Because when I watched the first one, I loved it, and then when I watched the second one, it just kind of ruined things for the first. But yeah, now we finally got Spider-Man Peter Parker, a guy who's down on his luck, who doesn't have the best life. And what's worse than a guy downtrodden, struggling to pay rent, not good with ladies, than someone who used to have all of it, and then it suddenly gets ripped away. He doesn't even have friends or family to fall back on like the other Spider-Men. I feel kind of bad because I always wanted MCU Peter to be independent, but now he's independent like a motherfucker. Like, he really, really learned about consequences and responsibility. Yeah, after the movie I was asking my friend, and she said the best part to her was when Tobey completed the, with great power comes great responsibility line. That part was cool, but the part that really sent chills down my spine was when he said, maybe May didn't die for nothing. And then it hit me, it's like, she died so he could finally be Spider-Man. He could finally learn that shit. Uncle Ben dying, tragic as it is, it was essential for Peter to learn about consequences and responsibility. Without it, he'd never mature. Sad as it is, it was necessary. And I'd say it's even better because we got to know May over 3 films, and now we feel sad when she dies too. It's not just like some guy who died. You know, Uncle Ben meant a lot to Peter, but he didn't really mean that much to the audience. You know, we kind of treated him like a joke. It's just like, oh, he's Sean Bean. And the best part about all of this is that all the Spider-Man are valid. No matter what franchise of Spider-Man is your favorite, they all exist. And they all love each other. They're brothers from another universe. And what makes it different from Into the Spider-Verse, which is a great movie in its own right, is that the Spider people in those movies were wildly different people. You know, in some cases animals. The only 2 who were human Peter Parkers were Spider-Man Noir and Sweatpants Spider-Man. You know, so this one, it just felt a lot more personal, like, that's not just Spider-Man over there, that's me. You know? It's cool. It's science fiction, it's comic book, it's a lot of shit.
Spider-Man.
What would I rate this? 10 out of 10! You know, I know it's got plot holes, but I don't care. It was everything I wanted and more. And there were some things I did want, you know, I wanted to see what happens afterwards. But you can save that for a sequel. You know, maybe we can see Ghost Spider. Maybe we can see Tobey with his family, including Mayday Parker. Maybe we could see that deleted scene from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 where Andrew Spidey meets his MJ. And for Tom, he's got 3 films coming up. Congratulations, dude. There's so many interesting stories to tell now. Because now he's got no background. He's got no school records. He can't really get a good job. He might have to resort to delivering pizzas again. And you know, what if he needs help paying rent? And then he gets roommates, and one happens to be really cold and one happens to be really hot. You know, you can have Spider-Man and his amazing friends. Another great thing is we get to see Spider-Man before he meets the Avengers. So we get to see him meet them for the first time, and then that would be exciting. Now, I do have a few questions, like when he told Doctor Strange, I want everyone to forget about Peter Parker. Does this include the other Peter Parkers? Because it's kind of fucked if they had to go through it, you know? They had a nice happy goodbye, and then when they go back to their world, it's like their wife doesn't know them. That's like, dude, what the fuck? But I'm just taking it to assume the universe forgets about MCU Peter Parker. And another thing, if everyone who knew Peter was Spider-Man came to this universe, does that mean Gwen and MJ did too? Like, I'm talking about Emma Stone and Kirsten Dunst. What about Harry? Both Harrys. Probably wouldn't want to work with Franco anymore. That's sad. But what about Dane DeHaan? Did they come over? And then they just get snapped back and then they both die. 3 of them, really. Gwen too, right? Gwen dies. That sucks. What if Gwen was pulled out like mid-fall? Oh, Jesus. That would be a comedy. Yeah, but if you haven't seen it yet, I don't know what the fuck you're doing, dude. Go watch it. Give money to this shit. Let these studios know that when you give the fans what they want, when you don't try to like push any moral agenda, when you just make a good story that everyone can agree on, you're gonna make millions of dollars. Is it $1 billion yet? Let's check it. I'm checking it live. Spider-Man worldwide gross. Okay, it crossed 800 million. You're almost at $1 billion, dude. It's almost at $1 billion. Come on, go watch it. It's not about the money. It's about sending a message. And the message is we want good movies. Alright? I'm done.
君はなぜ戦い続けるのか命をかけて一筋に無敵の男スパイダーマン